friends, I'm Whitney. Welcome back to my channel, Whitney ERD. On today's episode of The Sitch, we're talking time-restricted eating, or time-restricted feeding if we're talking about mice or my husband.
Abe, what time is it?
TRF for short refers to a type of intermittent fasting where all of the day's calories are consumed during a specified time window, usually an 8 to 12 hour period. I talked about TRF in my previous video on intermittent fasting and shared the emerging research on its benefits. To recap, TRF has been shown to improve metabolic markers like insulin sensitivity, beta cell functioning, and hemoglobin A1C. It's also been shown to lower blood pressure, decrease appetite in subjects, and potentially reduce the risk of breast cancer. However, these benefits may be limited to TRF regimens where the majority of food intake occurs during daylight hours, which aligns with our body's natural circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm refers to the 24-hour cycle in which our body's physiological processes revolve. It's internally regulated by clocks, or genes that are turned on or off at different times of the day based on input from both internal and external stimuli. Light, temperature, and food are all external stimuli that tell our clocks it's time to reset. For example, in the morning, in response to light and food, our clocks increase insulin sensitivity and decrease melatonin, the sleep hormone. In the evening, insulin sensitivity decreases and melatonin increases, preparing the body for rest and processes related to cellular repair. Now, if we're constantly eating late at night when our body should be switching into repair mode, it throws off our circadian rhythm and may lead to metabolic problems and sleep disturbance. And that's exactly what the research shows. Studies of time-restricted eating show that people with longer eating windows, whose food consumption spills into the night, have worse health outcomes than those with shorter windows. For example, women with early-stage breast cancer who eat for more than 13 hours a day have a 36% higher risk of breast cancer reoccurrence than those who eat for less than 13 hours a day. Studies of nurses who work rotating overnight shifts have also shown increased rates of breast cancer in the range of 36 to 79% increased risk. In fact, the International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified night shift work as a probable carcinogen to humans, based on studies showing a link between night shift work and breast, prostate, and colorectal cancer. They believe the mechanism, at least in breast cancer, may be alterations in estrogen homeostasis. An increased concentration of circulating estrogen is strongly associated with a higher risk of breast cancer. So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with our circadian clocks. These genes, found in every cell and organ of the body, control various physiological processes, like the production of hormones, and they're turned on or off at certain times of the day based on internal and external feedback. If genes in breast tissue that control estrogen production that are supposed to be turned off at night are constantly on due to light and food intake at odd hours, you can easily see how this would disrupt the delicate hormonal balance. So what's the takeaway? 1, we should aim to align our food intake with our sleep cycle as much as possible, eating during the daytime and fasting at night. 2, we should aim to keep food intake within a 12-hour window or less. For most people, that just means ending eating after dinner and beginning again at breakfast, or what I call common sense fasting. Now, what if you're someone who does night shift work? Are you doomed? Not at all. These studies simply show a link between circadian disruption and poor health outcomes. They do not prove causation, and they're certainly not a sentence. Also, the studies didn't take into account the dietary pattern or duration of food intake. And it's possible that a healthy diet or time-restricted feeding could help to mitigate the negative effects of night shift work. My advice would be to attain as much normalcy as possible with your diet shift schedule. If you need to be awake for extended periods of time for work, still aim to limit your food intake to a 12-hour or less window and try to stop eating 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep to avoid interfering with your body's natural melatonin production. Eating a plant-based diet is also a good bet, as research shows that vegans and vegetarians have lower rates of hormone-dependent cancers like breast and prostate cancer. And that's the sitch. Do you have more questions about time-restricted eating or fasting in general? Leave them below. And be sure to check out my full video on intermittent fasting and my video on the fasting mimicking diet. And if you're interested in moving toward a more plant-based diet, check out my free 7-day predominantly plant-based meal plan. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more evidence-based nutrition information. I'm Whitney. Thanks so much for watching.